Right, to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television, it's time for the news. We thank you so much for joining us on this edition. My name is Annabella Lecoeur. We begin right away with Her Majesty's France is to evacuate its citizens from Niger as the socio-political instability in that country increases. The coup in Niger has prompted demonstrations against a former colonial power, with the French embassy coming under attack. We are telling you that as the protest in Niger intensifies, France has called on its citizens in Niger to be evacuated for fear of any eventuality. Meantime, Liberia's President George Weah has criticized ECOWAS' supposed use of force in Niger. The Liberian president says we must also condemn those who prone what he terms institutional coup d'etat. And viewers, those are our major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Welcome back, viewers. We thank you so much for being with us on this other edition of the news today, Tuesday. We just told you in the headlines that France is to evacuate its citizens from Niger because of anti-French sentiments following last week's coup. The coup has prompted demonstrations against the former colonial power, with the French embassy coming under attack, as you can see in the images on your screens. Germany has also urged its nationals to take up France's offer to help other Europeans, and Italy is also organizing a flight of all its nationals from Niger. It comes as the juntas in Burkina Faso and Mali warns that any forcible attempt to restore the ousted president would be seen as a declaration of war. The two neighbors, also former French colonies, have been moved away from France and towards Russia after staging their own coup in recent years. We will be talking more on that. That would be in our subsequent news editions precisely at 8 p.m. And now from Niger, we take you over to Cote d'Ivoire, still talking about socio-political uprising in that country. Observers and governance experts are warning that the political instability in Senegal is posing a serious threat not only to the country but to Africa's democracy. The country is quickly shifting from a good example of democracy, notably in West Africa, to bad example. We are talking about Senegal. Babila Jonathan tells us more.
With elections generally qualified by many national and international observers as fair and credible, Senegal reinforced its status as the vanguard of West African democracy. It became an example to other African nations, with leaders seeking to entrench themselves. Over the years, former President Abdoulaye Wade and current President Macky Sall are largely acknowledged as leaders who committed to strengthening the independence of key political institutions and pursuing numerous reforms, including a negotiated settlement of the decades-old rebellion in Casamance region. But today, Senegal, long considered an example of democracy in West Africa, is currently going through a rarely experienced time of crisis marked by political tension, human rights abuses and violation, and uncertainties about the country's peaceful stability. Fingers are pointing to President Macky Sall, considered as main architect of the current situation. Recent events such as the arrest and imprisonment of political opponents, embezzlement of public funds, restrictions on press freedom, including summons and arrest of journalists, and demonstrations raise questions about the state of Senegal's democracy. The recent developments in the country further highlight what is described by some observers as the failing democracy of Senegal and a threat to Africa's democracy. With Senegal's leading opposition figure, Ousmane Sonko, charged with new offenses, put under custody, and his Pastef party dissolved, the uncertainty over the country's democracy is fast growing. The Interior Minister said Sonko and his party had been calling for insurrection, but supporters of the firebrand opposition leader believe all charges against him, including corrupting youth and those he had been acquitted of, like rape and death threats, to prevent him from standing in next year's elections. Though the authorities have denied the allegations, it has raised concerns about what is happening to democracy, in the country. Earlier, the sentencing of Usman Sonko sparked violent protests in one of Africa's most stable nations. According to officials, the demonstrations left at least 16 people dead and hundreds injured. However, Sonko was not taken to prison but remained under house arrest until Friday when he was arrested. According to Daniel Resnick, a fellow at the Brookings Institution, Senegal's democratic backsliding is a threat to African democracy, as it could encourage undemocratic practices in other parts of the continent. In the face of these growing threats, governance experts advise it is crucial to examine the root causes of this crisis and to consider how political authorities and institutions can work to preserve and strengthen democracy in Senegal.
Babila Janasanda reporting on the uprising in Senegal, especially with the persecution of its main opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko. Senegal and not Cote d'Ivoire, like I earlier mentioned. And we will be talking more about the uprising in Senegal and Niger. That will be in the second part of the news. Now we take you to the southwest region, precisely in the Manu division, where the local population is there complain that the poor state of roads in Mamfe, to be more precise in Bisongabang, has been a worrisome situation to the local inhabitants, and they say it has been hindering their economic activities, as Lucy Liengu Asia tells us in the report which comes up next.
For several years now, plying most roads in Mamfe, Manu division of the southwest region, is almost impossible. The presence of craters, which adds to the muddy and slippery nature, has hindered circulation, thus affecting economic activities. Business persons like traders find it difficult to transport their goods from farm to market.
You carry a chop for the farm for bring up for home we can sell them.
It is difficult to transport farm produce to the market because of bad roads. Just like men, women also have cocoa farms, but to transport cocoa from farms to market is near impossible. The roads should be rehabilitated and culverts constructed so that even motorbikes can transport crops from farms to market.
But with those roads, they'll not be fine way we work out with machine them reach the bush.
The more than 100 meter stretch, which is the main road used in Mamfe, has been a nightmare to road users. After several years of complaints and suffering, the first ever road with pavement blocks has been constructed in Mamfe. The opening of the road was done in the presence of the Senior Divisional Officer of Manu Division and City Mayor Robertson Tabenchon Ashu.
Ever first pavement blocks in Manu Division and in Mamfe in particular. All the other people in the quarters, please, now we have realized the job. Now it's for us to manage the road properly as good citizens that we are.
A lauded initiative, but according to the population, much work is still to be done, that is the tarring or improvement of road networks in Mamfe.
And several persons without identification papers have been arrested by security elements in the Lonti village in the Kribi in the south region of the country. Those suspected of being involved in fraudulent activities were also apprehended, as Immaculate Fogwe tells us in the report which comes up next.
Longi Plage, a fishing community found in Kribi south region of Cameroon, is hosting fishermen from Nigeria, Benin, including Cameroonians. Though fishing is the major economic activity in the area, investigations carried out by security elements described the site as a major hub for criminal activities. To ensure the security of inhabitants, gendarme elements are on the field. Residents who are unable to provide valid identification documents are taken to the station for questioning.
On ne s'est pas trompé.
In the course of our search, we discovered a lot of stolen motorcycles and boats. These people have to justify with receipts that these items belong to them. Another fraudulent activity brought to the limelight in the area is the sale of illicit fuel. The fuel is reportedly transported from neighboring Nigeria. They all claim not to be aware that illicit fuel is sold here. A lot of these fraudulent activities are carried out at night. We are going to make this area free of threats. The search operation in Longi comes few days after fire burned to ashes 3 houses where illicit fuel was being sold. The population have been asked to call the free toll number 1501 to denounce any fraudulent activity.
And now we talk health. Only 3 out of the 27 referral hospitals in Cameroon have oxygen centers to cater for the high oxygen demand in the country. Just about 41 to 52% of the district hospitals can boast of an oxygen cylinder. That is, according to the Ministry of Public Health, a shocking reality which contradicts the high demand for oxygen in Cameroon. As over 6,000 Cameroonians suffer from pneumonia. For me, Armstrong Sander is Alma on that beat.
Startling revelation is contained in a statistical report from the Ministry of Public Health in Cameroon. Only 3 out of 27 referral hospitals across the country have oxygen units. Furthermore, just about 42 to 51% of district hospitals in Cameroon can boast of an oxygen concentrator or a cylinder, a reality qualified by civil society actors as dangerous to patients across the country. Civil society actor Elodie Nyangondo says their study reveals that over 6,000 Cameroonians suffer from pneumonia. Because of the insufficient oxygen reserve in hospitals, these Cameroonians die helplessly each passing day. The situation became even worse in the past years because of the coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Romos Fogang, Technical Director of the Yaoundé Gynecology, Obstetric and Pediatric Hospital, says the COVID-19 oxygen demand was an oxygen cylinder per each passing 45 minutes. They blame the insufficiency on the high cost of oxygen in Cameroon. Dr. Ramos says an oxygen cylinder costs 33,000 francs CFA in Yaoundé, for example. This, according to him, is justified by the existence of few oxygen production facilities across Cameroon.
Qui est vraiment petite, sous-dimensionnée, qui ne suffit pas.
Worst, according to him, is the fact that the few existing factories are concentrated in the city of Douala.
Centrales de production sont, n'est-ce pas, du côté de Douala. Nous avons une petite centrale.
Faced with these realities, the life-threatening risks continue to grow in Cameroon with an increasing demand across the country.
And now to perhaps some domestic workers in the West region have decried poor treatment they receive from their employers. Many, they say, work for long hours with very low wages. Their worries were raised during a workshop organized by domestic workers' trade unions and local authorities in Bafoussam. Mala Glory has more.
20-year-old Gertrude is a domestic worker in the town of Bafoussam in the West region of the country. She says she does her job with passion, though in poor working conditions and on a low salary. The day you are late at work, they talk to you like a nobody. And the days you are earlier than your normal time, they don't respect the closing hour. Whenever something is missing at home, you are the main suspect, and anything you see is not taken into account. And the salary is below. A sad reality which is common with all menial jobs. People that offer their time and energy for others, such as drivers, security guards and cooks. I work for long hours without rest on a salary of 30,000 francs. For this reason, stakeholders and local authorities in the town of Bafoussam met together in a workshop to address the problem. This workshop is to call the attention of the government to revisit the degree which protects domestic workers in Cameroon.
Au Cameroun pour la meilleure protection des travailleurs et travailleuses domestiques.
As activities marking the day, a caravan of domestic workers carried out a march past on the streets of Bafzem to make their worries heard. The event had as objective to valorize the work of domestic workers in the West region and in Cameroon.
And now, viewers, let's go to Bonaberry here in Douala to discover a young man from the northwest region of the country who has manufactured a motorcycle which also serves as an ambulance. His name is Wingo Eric, and he spoke with our reporter Innocent Aze on his creation. Let's now watch on.
Here is the motorcycle ambulance, and on it is manufacturer Wingo Eric Jezeka, residing at Entrée GPS, Bonaberry, Douala 4 subdivision.
Not every startup can be able to afford a big ambulance. So the purpose of using it is when you want to carry a patient or a dead person or whatever, an injured person, maybe for an emergency, to run from house to the hospital or from one hospital to another. And I believe with a motorcycle ambulance, it is affordable, it is easy to maintain, it is cheap, it is less in consumption, and it can maneuver through traffic more than a bigger one, and it can also use very well on the bad route, let me put it that way, in the rural areas and so on and so forth.
It is the first ever motorcycle ambulance manufactured out of passion in weathering an automobile with just a first school living certificate.
Other tools, the physical tools like the machineries coming later, the materials that are coming later, but the first thing first is the conviction. You have to believe in yourself. You build it within you. You first of all build something on your brain before you bring it out on light. So
he is the master of these and other designs with materials procured from shops and markets in Douala.
We have all the irons in this city, in Douala. You know, we have all the irons that you can build anything, absolutely anything, any car, any bike, anything. Like every other bike, motorcycle, tricycle that I've been building, I build the whole chassis, I build the cabin, I build the whole system, this whole body. Then I just buy the engine, I buy the tires and the lamps and so on and so forth. So, and that is what production, manufacturing is all about. You can never do it alone, of course. That is just a fact. You can never do it alone. It's a teamwork.
Realizing such a project, he says, is a whole process.
Before I build any bike, I always come up with a blueprint. When I talk about the blueprint, is the school system design in a computer to see how you want it to come out to be. So after you're designing, through drawing, through computer program, through whatever means that you're gonna bring out the picture, you have to have you visualize the picture, you bring it out in a plan. Now you have to convert those plans by using irons. Apart from the machines, the drilling machines, the filing machines, I fabricate the benders, many of my tools. So.
With the computerized plan in front of him, he and his over 6 collaborators use a maximum of 1 month to build and equip this sophisticated motorcycle ambulance.
If I exit 30 days, it's because I'm not building one thing at a time right now. We know how bad our routes are. We know what is good for our routes. So I still build it to stand the test of time. That's the purpose of it, you know. You can carry actually 3 people on your back before you carry the patient, so you can maneuver very well on the route and you cannot fall. Through bad routes, through good routes, whatever. So it has been tested and approved. So.
By the time we left Entrée GPS, a hospital director from Kumba, Southwest region, had shown interest in buying this motorcycle ambulance.
I built that for 1,200,000 complete. The motorcycle ambulance is detachable. If you want to use only the motorcycle, you can dismount on the bed section. Though the categories is on the customer.
First 8 items are to be made available by the buyers.
As you saw it like that, that is exactly how it is. It is complete like that. The hospitals are the one producing, using their gas, their personal gas bottle, but I provide them that space. I provide them a toolbox. They're the one to use their safety box or whatever. I don't know the equipment they will use.
Despite the financial and space difficulties faced, Wingo Eric, Jezeka and his team are sure they can build any required number of these motorcycle ambulance. Not relenting efforts because of these challenges, they hope to one day overcome them, create a polytechnic and a big automobile company to train thousands of Cameroonians to become bosses and not end up in the unemployment cage.
courage and more inspiration to you, Eric Wingo. And now, viewers, we talk sports. Eseme Emmanuel Alobode has picked up the 4th gold for Team Cameroon at La Francophonie Games in Kinshasa. Eseme Emmanuel Alobode picked up the gold medal during the finals of the 100-meter men's race in the Smart Jikan Gabriel has an update on Cameroon's performance this far in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Eseme Emmanuel Lalogwede is the king of La Francophonie Games in the 100 meters men's race. The Cameroonian athlete picked up a gold medal in the final of the event doing the distance in 10 minutes 4. Before picking up the gold, Eseme Emmanuel Lalogwede created a new record in the 100 meters men's series on Monday as he did the distance in 10:03.
Il est en train de lui donner la leçon et c'est peut-être le nouveau record des championnats. On va attendre 10:05 pour Emmanuel Eseme.
Cameroon's Abesolo Cedric also won gold in the men's 92-kilogram wrestling. As the games continue at the time of this report, Team Cameroon at La Francophonie Games have moved up to the 3rd spot on the general classification table with a total of 13 medals, 4 golds, 3 silver and 6 bronze. During day 3 of the games, Lemongo Nkulu Nora grabbed gold in the final of the women's shot put throw, and Etane Ngolebeth Emilien won gold in the 68-kilogram freestyle wrestling after defeating Canada's Mulkai Kati Nicole. Cameroon's Sino Gwemde picked up bronze medal in women's 72-kilogram freestyle wrestling. Earlier on Tuesday, Cameroon's Juliana Sharon Bok lost to Tunisia's Fadwa Gassi 0-3 in the first phase of the women's table tennis simple event. A lone goal gave the under-20 Lions a slim 1-0 victory over Niger in the second group match of football at La Francophonie Games. The under-20 Lions will take on Benin in the semi-final of the football event.
Du Niger.
Thanks so much. That report brings us to the end of the first part of the news. Viewers Talking Point comes up next. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. Our guest tonight is Nadia Ba-Akwen. She is the National Youth President of the UPC political party, and we'll be talking about the socio-political uprising in Niger. Nadia, now, ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States, in the Abuja meeting over the weekend, designated Idris Deby of Chad to mediate in Niger. How can we explain the promptness of ECOWAS in Abuja in relation to the uprising in Niger?
It is a pleasure having me on your prestigious platform this very beautiful Tuesday evening, 1st of August 2023. You see, madam, the decision of the ECOWAS was a beautiful one. To me, I think that was a prompt and a very rapid reaction. ECOWAS is made up of like 15 countries, 15 to 16 countries, and it is found in West Africa, where it is being meted to protect the good of West African states, both economically, socially, politically, financially, in every domain.
And Nadia, there is this question: what can be the major push factor of the uprising in Niger?
We all know the echoes of the young general, the young transition president of Chad, Mr. Mahamat Idris Deby Itno. You know, he took over his father after his father was brutally killed. Okay? And he's had a lot of confrontations with the French and other, inter-regional organizations. His people stood by him. He took his grounds and he maintained his position to the good of his country. So I think that sending a general who masters coup d'etats, who masters unconstitutional takeover, who masters how a military joint functions, to me, is so strategic.
All right, that was on the destination of Idris Deby to Niger. Now, what might have pushed the Nigerian nationals to the streets?
Of the poorest countries in the world. Niger produces or has a huge deposit of uranium, yet they have electricity problem in that country. It is paranoid, right? You cannot imagine a country that has one of the highest deposits of uranium used in the creation of electricity bulbs and all other electric appliances is still suffering from electricity troubles. Niger has or gives out to the world about 24% of the uranium used in the world, but is still one of the poorest countries. Since Niger had her independence, they have been having a series of coups d'etat, from coups d'etats to coups d'etats, from civil wars to civil wars, because France has decided to keep protecting her interests.
And now, Nadia, we might also want to find out from you why the continuous anti-French sentiments in Niger and other former French colonies. We also had that in Burkina Faso not long ago. Why the anti-French sentiments lately?
We all know that France has roughly 1,500 troops in Niger right now. Yet, they couldn't defend or fight, so that Mohamed Bazoum, who is the president of Niger, should not be unconstitutionally erased from his position. He has been under house arrest for more than 4 to 5 days now. Yet, the French only had the nerves to tell the people of Niger how they will no longer support them, how they will withdraw from any food aid. You know, these people are so mischievous. France is a mischievous country, and they say they wouldn't tolerate any trouble to their interests in Niger. That is what interests them. And I know that Mohamed Idris Deby knows how to deal with them.
Nadia, there has been an attack on the French embassy in Niger and similar happenings today in France. Don't we think violence has hardly been a solution?
You see, madam, analyzing the last public riot that took place in Niger, whereby a group of citizens of Niger took to the streets, marched straight to the French embassy in Niger, pulled down their flag and burnt down the flag. Some were shouting, Tiani, Tiani, Abdurrahman Tiani. Others were shouting, Russia, Russia, and Russia. Now, I am not a fan to violence. I am not a fan to the destruction of properties or the taking of lives to prove a point. This public riot took the lives of some people and some were injured. Now, when we look at what's happening in Africa recently, the citizens are gradually taking back what we call democracy. What do I mean by this? Democracy is giving back power to the people. Now, the citizens of these countries have understood that it is only them, it is only the citizens that can liberate themselves from any trouble they find themselves. I will take a clear example, something that just happened and is still happening. The case of Senegal with Ousmane Sonko and Macky Sall. Ousmane Sonko was arrested and kept under house arrest. Immediately, the people of Senegal took to the streets, public riot, release this man, release our president, release our choice. And immediately he was released.
And now, Nadia, my very last question, is there a message that the people of Niger can be passing on to other African countries which are said to be suffering and smiling?
For you to be liberated, for you African countries, African citizens to be liberated, you need to take the bull by the horn. You need to brave all odds. You need to do what you haven't done before. Most countries now are getting liberated because of the people, are getting liberated because the people have understood only them can liberate themselves. And it brings us back to the case of Cameroon. Cameroon has been going through a lot. Cameroon has been under bondage for more than 40 years under the regime of President Biya. The Anglophone crisis, which is a trouble that started since 2016, is entering the 7th year this year. And we still have people who sit in their houses, who sit in front of their cameras talking nonsense. What you are talking wouldn't help us.
Thank you so much, Akwe Nadia, for accepting to be our guest on Talking Points tonight. Just to remind our viewers that you're the National Youth President of the UPC political party. Would have loved to prolong this discussion with you, but hope to have you some other time. And viewers, thank you so much for always being there. As usual, our programs continue Equinoxe Soir in 30 minutes, and the news in the French language comes up at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.